Have you ever had this feeling? You understand a concept, you know what's right, but actually doing it in your day-to-day life feels, well, almost impossible. Today, we're diving into a really powerful lecture that tackles that exact problem. It asks why it's so incredibly hard to put truth into practice, and believe me, the answer it gives is fascinating. So this is the big question, right? It's the puzzle at the center of it all. You can read all the books, you can listen to all the talks, and you're nodding along thinking, yes, that makes total sense. But then Monday morning hits. And when you're dealing with work or your family or just the world, it all seems to fall apart. This lecture gives a really specific diagnosis for why that happens and lays out a pretty bold path forward. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at a whole new way of defining truth. Then we'll get into a critique of what's called our modern complaining society, followed by let's say, a challenging argument about a crisis of wisdom. And finally, we'll explore this huge vision for a national mission and the very specific part the older generation is meant to play in it all. Okay, first things first. Before we can get to the solution, we have to understand the core idea. And according to this lecture, the problem is that we think about truth all wrong. We treat it like it's a fact we can just learn and then we're done. But it's actually something completely different. So get this. In this philosophy, truth isn't some idea you hold in your head. It's the actual operating system of nature itself. Think about that. You can't just download an OS into your brain and expect everything to work. It only reveals itself through constant use, through small, consistent, everyday actions. The idea that you're going to have one big aha moment that solves everything, that's just not how it works. So, if truth demands practice, what's getting in our way? Well, the lecture points a finger at a massive societal shift, basically a diagnosis of our entire modern mood. Let's take into what that means. And here is the core claim. In the past, especially during times of rebuilding and intense growth, society was all about effort. People were just too busy, too focused on building a better life day by day to sit around and complain. But now that we've reached a certain level of comfort, that default setting has flipped. Instead of putting in the effort, the culture is just soaked in complaint, always focusing on what's wrong instead of on what we can build next. And this isn't just about having a positive attitude. It's framed in almost spiritual terms. The idea is that the energy you need to make progress, that strength, is given to those who are actually trying. But a culture of complaining, that just cuts you off from that source of strength. The blame shifts from, what can I do about this, to, look what's being done to me. Now this brings us to a really interesting metric, the 70% rule. The idea is that real, lasting progress doesn't happen right away. You have to grind through that tough beginning, that first 30%, and push all the way past the 70% mark. It's only after you cross that line that things start to click and your efforts begin to build on their own. The big problem is, most of us quit way too early, thinking that initial struggle means we failed. So, if it all comes down to individual effort, why does it feel like our whole society is stuck in first gear? Okay, now we're heading into a very specific and, for some, a pretty challenging part of this whole analysis. To explain why things feel so imbalanced right now, the lecturer lays out a specific framework of societal roles and argues that one of those key roles hasn't been filled. Now, I'm just going to lay this out for you exactly as it's presented in the source material. According to this framework, a healthy society needs two kinds of work to be in balance. On one hand, you have the role assigned to men, which was the heavy lifting of physically building the nation, the roads, the companies, the economy. And the argument is that, for the most part, that job is now done. The second kind of work was a spiritual and intellectual mission. And this was intended for women, who had finally gained equal access to education. Their job was to unlock the wisdom needed to guide society into its next phase. So, within this view, what went wrong? Well, the argument goes like this. As educated women looked for spiritual guidance, they weren't pointed toward developing deep societal wisdom. Instead, they were often led into what's described here as blessing-seeking faiths. They were searching for meaning, but the institutions they turned to, according to this critique, didn't teach them how to create wisdom, but rather how to just ask for personal benefits. And here's the consequence laid out bare. You have the ideal on one side, cultivating wisdom from within to help everyone, and on the other, you have what the speaker sees as the reality of many modern religious practices, just asking an external source for personal blessings. The central claim here is that this detour completely stalled women from fulfilling that crucial role of guiding society, which created a huge leadership vacuum. Now, from that very sharp critique, the whole lecture pivots to a truly massive, incredibly ambitious solution. It puts forward a new purpose, a mission that would completely reframe a nation's identity and how it relates to the entire world. This is presented as nothing less than the historical destiny of the Korean people. They're described as heavenly descendants, and their ultimate purpose isn't for their own gain, but to become the parents of humanity. Think about what that means. It means travel isn't for tourism anymore. It's to go see and understand how other people are struggling. It means feeling the pain of someone in another part of the world as if it were your own family's pain. Because in this view, it is. This quote really gets to the heart of it all. This isn't a mission to dominate the world with economics or culture. No, it's a mission of deep empathy and wisdom. The job is to feel what others feel, to understand it, and then, and this is the crucial part, to develop the wisdom to actually find real solutions to help. So, who's supposed to lead this enormous change? I mean, a grand vision is one thing, but you need people to make it happen. And the speaker points to a very specific group to pick up this torch and run with it first. The call to action goes out directly to the baby boomer generation. And you might ask, why them? Well, because they're educated, they have decades of life experience, and many are now retired. That means they're free from the 9-to-5 grind, they have the time, the knowledge, and the freedom to dedicate themselves to this new kind of societal work. They're perfectly positioned to become the true elders of their society. And their mission isn't vague, it's about action. It's about gathering together, organizing, and using all that collective experience to guide the nation. By doing this, they'd be honoring the sacrifices of their parents and grandparents who built the country, and they'd be restoring a kind of natural social balance, a balance where elders aren't just old people, but are respected figures who offer real wisdom to everyone else. And that's what this whole explainer leaves us with. It's a question that goes way beyond just one country. In a world that's getting older, where we have more accumulated knowledge and experience than ever before, what is the real job of those who have lived the longest? Is it just to kick back and enjoy a well-earned rest? Or is it to take up the most important work there is, guiding the rest of us toward a wiser future?